Welcome to the Lead Montessori Community Conversations. My name is Mirka. We are broadcasting this session from Montessori Institute Prague. And today is a special occasion. This session actually is our first beacon event. It's not bacon event, okay? It's beacon event. And what that means is that we are now officially headed toward the Lead Montessori Global Online Community Conference, which is starting on November 19th. And at this occasion, I will use the opportunity to say hello to Sveta and to please ask Sveta to unmute. Sveta, please say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you. So now she popped up on your screen and you can see her beautiful background, right? Okay. So that's because I love Sveta, but it's also because we want you to know about the conference. And there's our little conference logo and the imagery, and we do want to invite you to come to the global conference. So that's why we're mentioning it at the start, and I'll also mention it at the end of the session today. But our beacon events, what does it mean? It means that this event shines on the path toward the conference, okay? It sheds light, it shows you the way, it sets the tone of the whole event, and it just prepares us mentally for the coming together, which will take place on the 19th of November. And it is not going to be just another online conference. It is as it came out, it was born out of these community conversations, out of these meetings, out of this time since March that we have had to be together, to connect and to share. So the conference is called Community Conference because we will continue to build the Montessori leaders community during the conference time as well. Okay. Having said that, I think we can start with today's topic. What we usually do at our community conversations is that we stay muted for the first part of the session when our speakers share their presentation with us. They usually take about 30 to 45 minutes to speak. They will have some beautiful photos to share with us. And when they're done with their presentation, we will turn off the recording and the streaming, and we will go into the conversation part. We turn the streaming and recording off on purpose because we want for the conversation to take place in a safe and comfortable environment, so we can reflect, ask questions, share our situations, discuss what we need to talk about, and just connect and be a community. During the conversation part, when you're ready, or if you want to talk, you want to speak, you want to ask something, you can just indicate by waving, or there's a function at the bottom of your screen. You can raise your electronic hand. I think it's when you go to participants, and let's see. There are some icons at the bottom. If you click on participants, the list of people attending are going to pop up on the right side of your screen. Yes, somebody's clapping their hands. Sveta just is demonstrating for us. There is a function for a raised hand, for a blue raised hand. So that's how you come up on my screen. And this way I will see that you want to, you would like to speak, and we'll just use that function for taking turn and being able to speak in this virtual environment. Thank you. I think I'm done with the introductory issues, and now I'm going to ask Rowley Hartwig from Australia. Rowley, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Mirka.
Okay, there you are. You just popped on my screen.
Lovely.
Rowley, before I ask Rowley to introduce our speakers, I will introduce Rowley. Rowley is a long-term colleague of mine. We know each other from AMI. We see each other at each event which AMI holds on site. So we've seen each other at every annual general meeting in Amsterdam, at all of the conferences, at the Congress in Prague. And Rowley is always the person behind the scenes, making sure everybody is where they need to be, taking care of speakers, and just being the pleasant and positive face, spreading a positive atmosphere throughout the event. And I have, as we're now headed toward the community conference, and the work is just piling up every day more and more. We invited Rolly to please join our Lead Montessori conference team, and she's now helping with taking care of the speakers and all of the coordination of the speaker agenda. So Rolly is with us today to just be with us and connect with us. And now I'm going to Rolly ask you to please introduce our speakers. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Mirka. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And before I introduce our speakers, I'd like to just share with everybody how thrilled I am to be helping Mirka and her team with the conference coming up in November. Who would have thought when things started to close down earlier this year that, well, I didn't think that I would be actually working with my Montessori community again, and I was so thrilled. So thank you again, Mirka, for this opportunity. Very much looking forward to working with everybody and learning more about the conference. So I am so thrilled to be able to introduce to you today's speakers, Faye Hendriksen, one of my old mates from AMI, and Hilary Korir, who has been a not quite so old mate as Faye, but I have known him for many years. Faye works at AMI and she's the coordinator of the Educateurs on Frontières. Some of you may know her through that work. And she's also the project manager for the Corner of Hope, as is Hilary. And both of them, amazingly, are studying for their AMI 3 to 6 diploma, as well as project manager Corner of Hope, as well as their day-to-day work that they do. Hilary is also the CEO of Montessori for Kenya, and he and Faye have been working together for a long time. And it's been fascinating just to see the development of the Corner of Hope project. So I hope you will be as excited as I am tonight to be listening to both of these two amazing people who are running fantastic projects and to hear more about what's happening in Kenya. Watch this space. So thank you, Faye. Thank you, Hilary, for joining us tonight. Or today, sorry, it's nighttime in Australia.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us today, and we look forward to listening and watching your presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I guess we take over now. Yeah, thank you very much, Rolly, for that wonderful introduction. Mika, for the invitation to the Beacon event, not Beacon, as you said. I'll share my screen so that we can go through the presentation. I'll take you through the first parts of the presentation, and then Faye will come in, and then we can conclude together later on. So let me quickly share my screen, and then I can proceed on. So just give me a minute. Okay, so here we are, the Corner of Hope initiative. And what I would like to do is to give you a little bit of the background, what led to the introduction of this project in Kenya. And I'll take you just briefly through the history. This was as a result of post-election violence that happened in the country in the year 2007-2008. Every electioneering period in Kenya, we've always had violence, and especially, after the introduction of the multi-party election in Kenya, or multi-party democracy in Kenya, that began sometime in the year 1991. So 1992, 97, 2002, 2007, all these periods, we've always had some bits of election violence, and this is because, as the candidates are campaigning, they utilize the history of the country in terms of the emotive issue of land, where you cause some displacement so that you remain with the persons that you would want to vote for you, and you displace other communities from what you so-called ancestral lands. So this has happened for a long period of time, but the year now 2007, 2008 was of high magnitude in the sense that the violence that was witnessed during the election or after the announcement of the results was very high. It led to violence starting off in the slum areas and then slowly creeping into the many parts of the country, and later on led to death of many people. It's estimated that more than 1,000 people died, more than even 1,250 people died, and hundreds of thousands were displaced during that period. And the pattern of displacement was such that, you know, they came to settle around Nakuru. Nakuru is more viewed as cosmopolitan. So those who are displaced came to temporary holding sites in Nakuru. And there was a second wave of violence, which led to many people again being displaced and settling in another area. But meanwhile, just to fast track, what happened is that there was the opposition the opposition were called in for a sitting. Kofi Annan came in. There was a peace accord that was signed so that the country could settle down, and there was a peace agreement or a national peace accord that was arrived at. And in this peace accord now, there were many reforms that were agreed, sharing positions in government, and also, you know, creating a position of the prime minister, which will be taken up for the persons who are feuding. So the displaced persons, in one of the things was compensation, to compensate the displaced persons and to settle them. So before proper arrangements were made, they were given some amount of money just to, you know, settle around. And what the internally displaced persons did is to organize themselves into groups, and they bought this land, this piece of land that you are seeing here, where they temporarily settled as they awaited compensation. So this land was bought by them, settled more than 1,000 persons with their tents, you know, which were temporarily structured. And during this period, you know, after the peace agreement, of course, the country was returning into normalcy. But the IDPs were there. Many persons went in to give interventions in terms of food supplies, psychosocial support, talking to those who are displaced, and we were part of the front line doing this. And then thereafter, there was a visit by Lynn to the country. There is a history between Montessori in Kenya and Tanzania, where in the 70s, Lynn was able to be part of the persons who started off in Nakuru and in Tanzania also. And when she visited the country, one of the sisters of a training center, St. Anne's Montessori Teachers Training Center, the late Sister Angela then, took Lynn. During the discussions, they were talking about, you know, what had happened in the country. And Sister Angela mentioned that there's an IDP camp where there were so many children that were just walking around. They had been traumatized by the effects of the war. Others were orphans, and she really pitied them. So they went to the camp, walked around with Lynn, saw the plight of the children, and our wish was that if there's anything that could be done to the children to give them a future, then that would be really the most noble thing to do. So again, it coincided to a period where, you know, propagating, you know, what Dr. Maria Montessori said, our wish, you know, was to come to Africa, but she never got an opportunity, you know, to do that. So I think that was the focus of also Lynn when she was appointed as the executive director, and coincided also with AMI being approached with a back donor who wanted to support this initiative. So we began, you know, there are those aspects of project development, writing proposals. But meanwhile, while that was happening, we went to the community, you know, started talking, engaging with the community, discussing with them that we would like to give support. But interestingly enough, you know, when people are traumatized, you'll find so many people wanting to give support. There are so many people who went to the camp, introduced so many ideas. Others, you know, wanted to give them an idea of starting a fish pond, but where do you start a fish pond in a place that does not have amenities, does not have water? Where do you start a chicken feed or a mushroom, you know, farm in such a scenario? And remember, everybody wanted to start this in a small piece of land. Wherever you settle a community anywhere, it is a requirement that you leave a portion of land that is meant as a playground for the children. So everybody wanted to use that playground for also those sorts of activities without taking into consideration, the plight of the children. So we had a number of discussions with the camp officials. There were so many committees within the two camps, an education committee, the umbrella committee, welfare committees. So we needed to identify the right committee. We talked to the education committee, told them our idea, what we wanted to do, at least intervene for the welfare of the children that would have a triple effect to the community at large. And it was a slow process. We were very patient, and ultimately we managed to convince them, and we signed an MOU and agreed that they were going to cede this small portion of land to establish a school which would benefit the children of the community. The idea, once we got the support to begin the initiative and had signed the MOU with the community, we recruited members from the community with one external expertise to begin the construction of the school. And the idea was to do a simple school that would use less resources, but the kind of structure would be so cool in the inside, presentable and cheap, and would be good for school environment. So the members of the community were recruited and trained to do the structures. These them working on the structures of the roofing. And then once the roofing was done, of course, we began the walling. And again, a handmade machine, a brick making machine was taken to do this work. And the community members participated, making one brick at a time until we had thousands of bricks, which were used to do the walling of the school. Thereafter, again, we needed to do the shelves for the school. The local carpenters from the community, those who had done some carpentry courses, trained others and began to work on the child-sized tables, child-sized chairs to be used in the school. And ultimately, the school was complete. In the meantime, also, we've had the community coming in to assist in terms of preparing the uniform for the children. The parents do volunteer even to date to do the tie and dye to make uniform for the children. The seamstress from the community also volunteered to do the dresses and the uniform for the children. And finally, we got this school up, yeah. And in the end, we had joyful children and the joyful teachers. But let me go and talk slightly about the teachers, because meanwhile, as we were doing the construction of the school, there was something that was happening with the teachers. Immediately construction began, we also recruited teachers from the community, those who met the required qualification to join college. But in the beginning, what we did is that they would begin their training in college in the morning for the first 6 weeks, and in the afternoon, they would work on their materials in the college. And then thereafter, now they would work, they will work with the children in the morning, and then in the afternoon, now attend college, so that they would begin attending to the children in the camps. There was this UNICEF tent that was worn out before the school was complete. So the children would assemble there, and the materials, Montessori materials, would slowly and slowly be introduced to them. And then again, the teachers would work with mentor teachers. We got 2 mentor teachers who had finished training earlier on, who had been trained in the 3 to 6 environment, who started working with those teachers who were in training and started mentoring them. And these are the materials that they made. The beauty with the college, St. Anne's Montessori College, one thing that is a take home is that when they're doing the training, the trainees slowly and slowly work on their materials. So they are working on one area, sensorial, they work on the sensorial materials, practical life materials, maths materials, all those materials, they work on them. And at the end of the qualification, they come out with a whole set of Montessori materials that they can begin a classroom with. So these are the wonderful materials. They are displayed in the shelves that have been done by the community themselves, the carpenters from the community. You can see how they are displayed very well. I think they very much look like those factory-made materials because everything is worked to precision. and ultimately the teachers graduate. So since then, but Faye will talk about that later on, we've been every year taking a cohort of 8 teachers to be trained in the college, and so far we have over 90 teachers that have been trained so far. These are the teachers happily, celebrating the attaining of the certificate, National 3 to 6 certificate. Because it was an integrated approach to the community, there was a whole aspect of housing, and the community had been trained. When they were doing the walling and the bricks for the school, they learned the skill. So we managed to get some support to do some houses. These are how the houses were looking like, tents which were slowly wearing out. And we talked to the community. We had an opportunity to do 18 houses. They did the selection themselves and agreed that they would do 7 for the teachers, do another 6 for those members who had participated in construction, and also the very needy parents in the community. This is one of the houses that was being done using the brick making machine, just to improve the housing facility within the camp. You can see they are doing a whole decoration on the windows, and ultimately this is one of the teachers displaying a house, a very nice environment on the inside. Everything has been done, the covers, and made crocheted covers to cover the chairs and even the table. So this happened, and for a while, the school kept running. There is training in the community. People are getting excited. People are coming to see the school and the progress that has been made. The children kept influencing their parents. The others graduated and went to the neighboring school. And when they went to the neighboring school, they were really portraying very good results. And slowly, it was, eliciting a lot of interest. People wanted to see what was happening within this community. From their land that, had the tents that were worn out. Now you can see a settlement within the community. People have built more of permanent structures. The school is there. It has influenced the community, and even the surrounding. People have built around the locality now into a good settlement. And then again, because with time there was compensation of the internally displaced persons, the government worked out a formula and bought a land somewhere else in a place called Kisima, which is around 20 kilometers from Nakuru, just to settle the internally displaced persons, because that was one of the agreements that was reached at in the peace accord. In this area, it's a real fertile land, around 1,112 acres, which was settling 433 families. And the idea is to give each family 2 acres each. And also at the same time, as is the norm in any settlement, have a piece of land where you can have for amenities for the school. We are targeting this place to be allocated a school where we can work on it. But in the meantime, when the community went there, because some of them left the corner of hope, they started asking and saying, what will happen to our children? They were staying in former cow sheds. Yeah, as you can see here, this is a former cow shed, just several families sharing together. The community sat down and gave out a room, one of the former cow shed, and said, if you can be able to set up a school like you've done in Pipeline, just like, because we'd like our children to benefit the same way. So we worked on the environment. It wasn't like this. It had stores. The floor was very rough because it had the pens for the animals, for the cows. We lowered the windows, painted the wall white, and then again put some netting on the roof just to keep it safe, and some security in terms of a good door, and picked some, got some 2 teachers who had been trained, and a number of others to go and offer support in this Kisima area. So the parents themselves are the one who asked and said, we want what we witnessed there. So we continued the same. It started replicating in Kisima. And this is the nice classroom environment in Kisima. You can see the teachers working with the children and giving them the several exercises. In the meantime, again, we had a lot of ongoing capacity enhancement just to be able to upskill the level of training of the teachers. And as I mentioned earlier on, every year we used to get 8 teachers to go to St. Anne's for training. The first year is used for training. Then the second year, they go to the field and work on attachment and mentorship, and under some mentorship. And then assessment is done before they graduate. This is the class of 2018 that graduated. And then at the same time, we got some to do the national in-service training. The in-service training enables them to be able to get the diploma. And this diploma, because of the working of the curriculum, will allow them later on to be able to work in a public school or any Montessori school, which is one great achievement that has been done in terms of the government recognizing the Montessori curriculum. We have also 4 teachers at the moment who are undergoing the international 3 to 6 international training in Tanzania. They would have finished their training were it not for the corona. They had finished their oral examinations. They were just about to finish their practical and graduate in April, and then the pandemic struck and they had to break. So they are just yet to go and finish that one exercise, and then they would graduate with their international diploma. Also, there was elementary training that was done in the country between the years 2014 to 2017. This, we had our trainer, Poincy was there also doing the training with Jean Miller and also Eileen Spalla, who came during the holidays to give modules to the students. We had 27 students who did in this, who participated in this first ever done 6 to 12, elementary training, national elementary training that was done in Kenya. And immediately they finished their graduation around 2017, beginning of 2018. We began an environment at Corner of Hope. These are the trainees who were undergoing the training. And you can see what they worked on. Handmade beads here. Some of them were working on the timelines for the first time, and you can see them, just trying to paint, try their skills in painting. A first environment was started at Corner of Hope School, elementary class, with the trained teachers, with their materials, and also at one of the schools, a Catholic school. One of the sisters who had undergone the training went and established an environment within the school, and many other teachers who graduated went and established in their different places. You can see all this material is handmade by the teachers themselves. These materials also handmade. With time, also the interest started, expanding so much. Many people were coming to Corner of Hope to see what was happening. We got a number of visitors, and there was interest to transfer the same to Samburu. Samburu is up north within the nomads, in the nomadic areas in Kenya, and it's inhabited by mostly the pastoralists. And what happened is that you can see these are the manyatas. When there's a partner who visited, saw what was happening in Corner of Hope, and thought that this would be a good, form of education that can be established within the nomadic areas, and taking also into consideration the need to preserve the culture and to preserve the land and to coexist, peacefully with the animals. This is the community. What happens here is that the education levels are very low. A young girl is married off at very young age, and this is the culture of the community. Also, they don't get that opportunity to attend, school. The boys, on the other hand, are meant to take care of the animals from an early age. So issues of schooling, and even the nearest school is miles and miles away. So we got some teachers. You can see the animals. This is just sort of the environment that it is. You are just coexisting with the elephants, the hyenas, the giraffes, the buffaloes. They're just within the environment, but they coexist peacefully with the community. So what we did is that we got 2 mentor teachers who, you know, accepted that they would want to go and work with the community. One of them was working in Corner of Hope, Judy, and Terry, who had been also trained earlier on. The reason being that they sort of, Judy had an experience, she comes from near Samburu, so she understands the local language. And Terry also is from the Kalenjin community, so it would be easier for her to understand the language. So we got initially 2 teachers from the community to go to college to be trained at St. Anne's. And then on their second year now, when they were on attachment, they went with the mentor teachers to begin sensitizing the community on Montessori, the working from them, migrating with the community from one environment to the other as they were seeking their pasture, but for the animals, at the same time, you know, displaying the Montessori materials. Later on, with time, we've managed to train other teachers. So there are 6 teachers at the moment in the locality with the 2 mentor teachers. Initially, later on, they set up 2 sites where the community were more assembling at. That is a place called Tintil and Taparani. And recently now they started off on another site called Lusaka. So these are the teachers displaying the materials when they were doing the awareness, you know, within the community. This is the classroom environment, the static one that has been set up, just a tent set up as a classroom environment within the terrain. And these are the children working within the classroom environment. And because the space is limited, they utilize the outside of the classroom environment. The teachers, I must really laud them because, you know, for them they sacrifice everything to be able to live in the wilderness and to give the service to the children. You can see this is where they sleep, so their small tents displayed here. So now Corner of Hope has grown, and I think this is where let's Faye, you know, just tell us a little bit what has happened from the start of the program. We've done the training of the teachers. There's been interest in different parts of the country, including Samburu, and now we are 10 years old. Faye.
Thanks, Hilary. Yeah, so far we have mainly discussed the history, and we would also like to offer some reflections, really looking back at how Corner of Hope has evolved over 10 years. And also with the realization that in 2020, this is a year that's completely different from what everybody expected. So we were planning to hold celebrations around 10 years, but we were hoping to do that at the school. But unfortunately, that's not possible at the moment. So we're also looking at other ways to celebrate and to reflect on the success of Corner of Hope. And also to really look at how it has evolved and what have we learned from this. Yeah, next slide, please, Henry. So looking back at what has been achieved, we know that over 1,000 children have passed through the Corner of Hope schools, most attending the schools from the age 3 to 6, and then continuing on to the government schools, who are very keen to take on the children from Corner of Hope because they do so well academically, but also socially. But we now also accommodate children up to 12 years, and parents are very eager for their children to continue at Corner of Hope. And we also know that the teachers, they're highly motivated and capable, and many have actually been with Corner of Hope, working there for the full 10 years. And the children are thriving, eager to come to school every day. And the school is really a community center where the whole community comes together. So also looking at expansion, which was also one of the things that we thought would happen from the beginning on. Kisima was the first kind of natural expansion, started at the request of the parents from the community as they were given land somewhere else. And I think it's also very telling that there was very limited space, but they were eager to allocate some of the space they had in the cow shed as the school building. And also something that's very visible is the number of visitors visiting Corner of Hope, both from Kenya, but also from other countries. And also the teachers take great pride in those visits, where they know that actually Corner of Hope is something that a lot of people hear about and are inspired about. So also the Corner of Hope, the Samburu initiative, which is a very promising kind of like replication of the model of Corner of Hope, with 2 mentor teachers from the community and the other teachers trained from the local community. And this model shows the potential of also setting up mobile schools in remote communities. And it also demonstrates how well Montessori is aligned with communities with very strong traditions and cultural values. And another major milestone is that the Kenyan government is actually very open to Montessori education, and the 3 colleges in Kenya have been working together to submit their curriculum and training format. And this is now in the process of being recognized, which will mean that each teacher who has completed the national diploma will also get a teacher number, which would then allow them to work in government schools. So that would really allow us to increase impact within Kenya. And also something we have been looking at is how do we actually demonstrate the success, because we know that the children are happy and the children are thriving and that the teachers are doing incredible work. But in order, especially if we're talking about replication, it's also very important to look at impact and how do we share the story and how do we share the impact in tangible manners. So one of the things we're currently looking at is how do we actually measure that? And we are working with a team of Kenyan researchers as well as Professor Adele Diamond to set up some very simple tools to measure executive functioning. Because we believe that this will be a very good indicator for success later in life, as it really is that the foundation is laid in those first years of life. And we think that if we look at executive functioning, this could really prove the model, the success of the model and the success of Montessori education for communities such as Corner of Hope. Yeah. But I mean, as we all know, 2020 is very different than what we all planned and what we expected. And the schools in Kenya, they have been closed since mid-March, and they are only likely to reopen in January, which basically means that the children are missing out on a whole year of education. And one of the major challenges in Kenya and also at Corner of Hope is the lack of stable internet connection and access to laptops or mobile devices with internet, which made it very difficult in terms of communication with teachers, and especially reaching the children and families is very difficult. So since March, we have actually explored different options, and what we found out to work very well is WhatsApp. So we have provided the teachers with some key Montessori text, and Pearson Publishing Company has kindly donated and shipped a set of books to the teachers. And they're now engaged in daily reading discussions to deepen their theoretic understanding, which will then help them in their practice. And it's also a very good way to keep in connection with them. And also after several practice sessions, we are now also holding monthly Zoom meetings with them, which is not easy, but we have managed, all the teachers now managed to get onto the Zoom. And we have trainers from MMI in London who then facilitate these sessions around a specific topic related to Montessori theory and practice. And so this is ongoing for as long as the schools are closed. And we really hope that the school can open again in January. And it's going really well, actually, as a way of keeping connected. And we also have 3 teachers who are going to start the 3 to 6 orientation course at MMI, which will start next week. And here you see Corner of Hope shortly after the classrooms were built. And you can also see here how much the community has evolved, because you saw the iconic lightweight roofs, which were very special in the way they were set up. And also one of the things being that they would be transportable, because it wasn't sure whether the community would stay. So if need be, the roofs could actually also be moved. But during this long interruption due to COVID, we've actually renovated the roofs, because the original roofs only had a life expectancy of 10 years. And we now have new roofs. They look a bit different, but they will last for 50 years. And I think this is also very telling in that there is a tendency around communities being displaced where we think about temporary measures and we think about short-term solutions, but actually what you see in a lot of parts of the world, that refugee and IDP communities are actually displaced for many years. So also there, it's really something that is much longer term. And I think also here you see with the fencing around it is that you see that the plot is of Corner of Hope is actually quite small. So this is really the maximum in terms of classrooms, but we are looking at ways to expand, because we would like to offer elementary to more children. But we would need to find additional land. And also what Hilary showed you before, how empty it was when Corner of Hope started. There's really like a very close community around it now. And also the city of Nakuru is really expanding. So there's very limited land available. But we continue to look for options there to build more classrooms. Yes, next please, Henry. So also during the last few months, we've done some major renovations at Kisima. As you saw, this cow shed is set up as a large classroom, but there were some issues with the floor. So the floor has been repainted, and we also made a very beautiful entrance so that the children, when they can go back to school, the school is in perfect condition and very inviting to the children again. Yeah. So this is Samburu. I think it was last week when Hillary visited. So actually here the tents have been pitched up again and the teachers are back in the settlements actually since September, because then the government released some guidelines to actually encourage teachers to engage in community sessions with small groups of children in the outside environment. And luckily this is an area where there's a lot of space for outside activities. And also there have been very little infections in the community. So currently we're working with the COVID guidelines, of course, but actually the teachers are back and engaging with the children at both the original locations, so both in Tintil and Taparani, and also the third school is now set up in Lengusaka. Next, yeah. So here you see the new site at Lengusaka, which was also set up early September by 3 teachers. They pitched up their tents, and on the first day of school, 140 children showed up, because all the children who would normally attend different schools were not able to do so because all the schools are closed, and the children are very eager to learn. So every day about 100 to 140 children have been coming to the school, and the teachers have been doing a great job working with so many children, which is of course a very big challenge. So yeah, the situation in Kenya is quite concerning in terms of the disruption to education caused by COVID, because it's another major obstacle to access to quality education, and there's a risk that it will undo a lot of progress that has been made over the last few years. And especially if we're looking at communities such as Samburu, you see that there's a high rise in terms of early marriages and pregnancy. And the longer the children miss out on school, the less likely they are to return. So given this urgency, we are also keen to provide support to more communities in Kenya, as we know that Montessori education will have a positive impact on their lives and the lives of the adults there. So we recently received a significant donation for ESF, which we then discussed with the team in Kenya, seeing what they thought would make significant impact. The next slide, please. And yeah, that's okay. We know that what we can do in Kenya is to train motivated, capable individuals who can then return to their communities, which will impact the lives of many children. So each teacher will have made their own set of material, which then they can take anywhere they go to set up a classroom within their community, and they're also able to repair them. So that makes that model very transferable in that sense. So what we are now planning to do, thanks to that donation, we are planning to have at least 4 students from East Pokot to start their Montessori training in January in Nakuru. And as you can see in the photo, the Pokot are a nomadic tribe, very similar to the Samburu community. And the region has a very harsh climate and children have limited access to school. And also the schools that are there often lack quality because teachers in the area are not very high trained and are also not very likely to stay in the area due to the harsh climate. So the illiteracy level in East Pokot is about 95% and is one of the poorest regions in Kenya. So yeah, so we now plan to start with the training of 4 teachers from Pokot, and as we realize that this will have a massive impact, and the more teachers we can train, the more children we can reach. So what we're now planning to do as well is to set up a fundraising campaign, which we will launch on the 1st of December to raise additional funds. So do keep an eye out if you would like to support this work. and bringing it back to here that we have these different plans for the future. We're also really working on a more concentrated approach to increase access to Montessori education in Kenya, and Hilary will talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Faye. Just a quick one. I know we're really moving fast on time. I want to just mention a few points on Montessori for Kenya. From the discussion that we've had, you've seen that over time now, the scope of Montessori in Kenya has been increasing. There's been a lot of interest. We are getting people inquiring about the training in college. Those teachers who have been trained have gone to different areas and spread the word. So there's a lot of interest in terms of support for the training, the teachers, and the need to create quality environments. And then again, we need to consolidate all these Montessori efforts under one body or a one-stop, center where you can get all the Montessori needs. We're getting people in Samburu, people from Nairobi, people from different parts of the country. And then we thought of an avenue in which you can have a voice to lobby to the government, in terms of recognition, in terms of recognizing the curriculum, the 3 to 6 curriculum, the 6 to 12 again curriculum. And then again, the aspect that Montessori for Kenya needs to act as a regional body that can represent, the interest of Montessori in Kenya and also regionally. So these are some of the functions that we anticipate Montessori for Kenya to do, just to ensure quality assurance and professional development support in terms of ensuring that there is pedagogical support and implementation quality, issues of administration and project management in terms of the different projects that are coming up, Konovop, Samburu, others that are coming up in different parts of the country. Building on this relationship with the government, with institutions, with other NGOs is one of the tasks that is being undertaken by Montessori for Kenya. And then looking into long-term planning, long-term strategic planning for the growth of Montessori for Kenya. So Montessori for Kenya got affiliated to AMI last April during the AGM in 2019. And we are really proud to be part of this Montessori community. Now, we'll just wind up by this small quote, which we can read. And we can now welcome your questions and comments.